Hey everybody, one of my favorite outdoor activities is bird watching because it's kind of like a treasure hunt. You have to use all your explorer skills to do it. You have to use your ears for listening to bird songs and bird calls. You have to use your eyes for looking for birds, and you have to use your knowledge to know where to go hiking to look for them. Now, I've been bird watching most of my life, and I can tell you that it's a lot more fun the more you get to know birds and the better you get at identifying them. Now, one way to start is to set up a bird feeder and see if you can identify all the birds that come to your backyard. And you can even see what times of day that they come and make notes about it and learn about the birds that live in your area. That's a really easy way to get started. Now, I've traveled for bird watching before because I love the challenge of looking for birds that I don't get to see every day. So one time I went to Canada during fall migration season to Holiday Beach, and I climbed to the top of a 40-foot hawk tower where I could get up high to go bird watching. Other times I've gone to Ohio to McGee Marsh along Lake Erie, where there are tons and tons of warblers during spring migration. And that's always an exciting time. On one of those trips, I was able to identify 60 different species of birds in one day. It was amazing. And today, we're going to learn some cool facts about some backyard birds, as well as bird watching and bird photography. So I hope you're ready for an adventure. Here we go. As a wildlife filmmaker and educator, I've spent most of my life exploring God's creation, from climbing up mountains to canoeing through wetlands and hiking into forests. My love for God's creation has taken me on many outdoor adventures. In each episode, you'll come along with me as we explore this great big world God has made. I hope you're ready for an adventure. I'm Peter Schremer, and this is Hike and Seek. If you're driving along the highway, you might spot a large bird watching the road or flying overhead. Oftentimes around here, that bird is a red-tailed hawk. They love highways because they love to sit at forest edges and watch open spaces to hunt for small mammals. They're one of the most common hawks in North America, so it's likely that you've seen one. So today, we're going to start our adventure by getting to see one up close and personal at the Outdoor Discovery Center. Well, we're at the Outdoor Discovery Center here with Jamie Krupka and a really cool bird. Jamie, tell us a little bit about this hawk and why it's here at the Outdoor Discovery Center.
Well, this is a red-tailed hawk. It's one of our most common species of hawks in North America. And the reason we have this individual is it was hit by a car. It sustained an injury to one of its wings, making it so that it's not going to be as successful in the wild when it hunts.
So I was talking earlier about how red-tails love hunting in open spaces. Why don't you share with us a little bit how they're perfectly suited for hunting in the open?
Well, they're well adapted to hunting in those open spaces because of a couple of their features. One is the way that they hunt, their technique for hunting. They like to take a high perch, looking down over that open habitat, giving them the ability to see out even as far as a mile. They have an eyesight that's 6 times better than humans, so they could easily be a couple hundred feet up in the air looking out for prey. So high perches, they're great at that. They also have big, broad wings, allowing them to soar over that open habitat, looking down for food. Something as small as a mouse or a squirrel or a snake or something like that. But also, they are well adapted for being in those open habitats because of their strong feet. Something like a rabbit is a pretty big animal, but their strong feet allow them to attack and kill those types of prey animals that are a little bit bigger. Red-tailed hawks are one of the apex predators of open habitats. One of their few predators is a great horned owl, but they're pretty much the boss of meadows and forest edges. The red-tailed hawk is one of our most common species seen because of their preferred place to hunt along roadways, where there's large expanses of cut grass, allowing them easy access to prey. Their big, broad wings allow them to soar over that space and see for a long distance.
So Jamie, how does this red-tailed hawk work as a wildlife ambassador here at the Outdoor Discovery Center?
Well, for one, it's not every day you get to be this close to a red-tailed hawk, so it becomes a wonderful segue for people to learn about birds of prey. But it also becomes something where we can give people opportunities to do unique things like taking pictures of birds in natural perches.
We are here today with my good friend John Dykstra, and we have worked together on lots of wildlife productions before, and I'm really excited because today he is in front of the lens with us to share a little bit about wildlife photography. So John, tell us about your setup here.
Well, what I have here is specifically a setup for what we've been doing with the bird photography. You have to start with a good camera. I have what we call a zoom lens. It's a zoom lens because it can move in and out, which will make subjects halfway across the meadow come very close in the camera frame. It's on a funny looking tripod head. It's called a gimbal head, but the advantage is it moves all over. You can follow a bird in flight, a deer running, any kind of action. So it's really a handy tripod head. The legs are awfully important. They're sturdy legs. They help to keep the camera from moving. And I don't want anyone that views this to be intimidated by the equipment I have and feel like you have to have this to get started in nature photography. I would encourage you to use any equipment that you have, even if it's your cell phone, to get started and to get into nature and enjoy it and see God in all of the surroundings around you. My final thing I have is my fanny pack, which I carry extra batteries, memory cards, things like that. And this is also where I keep my Bible and my journal for special moments in nature.
So John, what wildlife photography tips can you share with us today?
Well, there's a few things that are quite important in any photography, but especially nature photography. And one of the things is a piece of equipment that I didn't mention earlier, but is probably my most important one, is my alarm clock. The first few hours in the morning and the last few hours in the evening are the times to get out to photograph. Photographers call that the sweet light. Another tip I would think is very important is what we call the rule of thirds. What that is you divide your viewfinder or your screen into vertical and horizontal lines, into thirds, where those two cross together is what we call a PowerPoint. That's where you would like the subject or the action, what you want to be the most important part of your image should be in one of those PowerPoints or in one of the lines, vertical or horizontal. The third thing I would suggest is watch your background. You can control the background any way that you want by moving yourself around. So move if you have to have simple backgrounds. Background should always, if you possible, be in the same type of light that you're photographing your subject in. The fourth tip, learn about the subjects you want to photograph. Get yourself involved in it by learning the habits of a bird or an animal. These things will help you to locate them better and become a better nature photographer. If nothing else, you've learned a lot more about God's creation.
So John, are there any secrets or tips that you could share with people who want to start taking photos of birds in their backyard?
Well, I have a setup in my backyard that I would love to show you.
That'd be awesome. Can we go see it?
Let's go.
All right, cool. So John, explain to us, what do we have going on back here?
Well, there's two ways that you can photograph birds and really any of the wildlife. Is you have to go to them, or if you can get them to come to you, which I call my backyard bird photo studio. I've got natural perches that the birds will land on. I draw them in with premium bird seed. To get a better idea, you have to come in and see it from the camera side.
Okay, let's go. Oh, this looks really cool.
Yeah, well, this is kind of my special workroom. I enjoy and spend a lot of time here. We have this material that looks like the outdoors, like the woods. It's camouflage. We have a little cut in it so we can put our lens through. And that's just about it.
What kind of birds do you get out here, John?
Well, we get the American robin, the northern cardinal, the blue jay, the red-bellied woodpecker, the black-capped chickadee, tufted titmouse. The exciting thing for me is just watching nature and not knowing what's going to happen next.
Well, that was really interesting. I hope you learned some fun tips and tricks about taking photos. As John always says, it doesn't matter what kind of equipment you have, just get outside into God's creation and start practicing. I use my phone for taking photos all the time, and it's a lot of fun. Now, coming up next, we are headed to the Howell Nature Center to see a very intelligent backyard bird that I'm sure you've seen before, the American crow. So we are here with Caitlin Lewis, the Wildlife Park Coordinator here at the Howell Nature Center. Caitlin, share with us a little bit about who we have here and why she is a permanent resident here at the Nature Center.
So this is Mischief, the American crow. She's been with us for a little while now and was actually kept as an illegal pet for about 5 months by a member of the public. It was at a time in her life early on when the part of their brain is forming that lets them figure out what their identity is. So instead of identifying as a crow because she wasn't exposed to crows, she started identifying as a person. So she actually thinks she's people and lacks the social and survival skills to be released to the wild because she wouldn't know that she's a crow and wouldn't approach them correctly or socially and be able to get along with that species.
So crows are very intelligent and curious creatures. Share with us a little bit about what makes them unique.
So crows, they are extremely intelligent. They're part of the corvid family. There's an extremely large brain associated with that. So they have room to store memory. They have room to store lots of different language. They actually have the vocabulary of a third grader. And that similar crow sound that everybody knows, the caw, there's actually 30 different versions of that. So they actually have different dialects depending on where you're at in the U.S. as well. They have a different accent out on the East Coast than they do here in the Midwest, all kinds of different things. They're very good at solving problems, so using puzzles to kind of mimic their wild scavenging techniques, we can extend our foraging time and keep that brain busy, busy, busy here in captivity.
So crows are found across most of North America. So what are some habitats or situations where people might be able to see them?
So crows, they are extremely intelligent, like we talked about before. So most of the time when you're seeing interactions with crows and people, it's because they've learned an opportunity to find food. They're very, very adept scavengers. They're extremely adaptable as well, and really their only limiting factors are temperature, so they need to stay warm enough year-round, and also avoiding predators, so getting away from other species that might prey on them, like larger birds of prey, and also other mammal species that'll take advantage of them being on the ground. So they have been known to even memorize people's schedules to find when they are filling their bird feeder, when they're taking out the trash, if there's any domestic pets around that they're feeding outdoors, figuring out where that bowl or that food source is, and really taking advantage of every opportunity that they have to gather resources. So they love people because we are messy and we leave lots of stuff behind for them to have.
So do you get many crows here at the Wildlife Clinic?
Crows aren't actually a very frequent flyer with our clinic. They are extremely intelligent, so most of the time they keep themselves out of trouble, thankfully. Parents are very good at taking care of their babies. The mom and dad work together on that, and they have extremely strong social bonds, so they keep themselves pretty safe that way. And the instances where we really do get crows in, something catastrophic has usually happened. So either they were hit by a car, or this year we actually gained 2 baby crows that came into our clinic because of very, very bad falls during a windstorm. So we can actually go and meet one of them that is training to be an ambassador animal with us right now. So we are here with our very new ambassador crow, and you can see a lot of begging behaviors right now. So this crow is actually being trained to go out on outreach programs to teach about American crows to our public and schools that we work with. So up, up, of course now, up, good. So he's learning to target and be rewarded for that, as well as station on different objects. We know that this is a juvenile because of the blue eyes. You can see the irises haven't darkened to the adult color yet. That mouth is also flushed pink to beg for food, and the lips are also pink, which helps to signal the parents to feed the baby. So it's doing all of its behaviors in order to get this more food and engage with us on trying to be rewarded for the behaviors that we're asking for. Target, good. Target, good. Target, target, good. that enough? We finally hit enough. Nope, we did not. So the language is a little bit different in the younger crows. So this begging sound that it's making is traditional for crows when they are babies like this. They adapt out of that into the traditional call that you see with the adults. And we are hand feeding right now to encourage bonding with our staff in order to have a more positive relationship with the crow. So we're acting essentially as parents, knowing that this bird can't be released with its wing injury. So this elbow is actually frozen. That joint can't extend and the bird cannot fly. But because it can't be released to the wild, we need to ensure that it's going to have a happy and fulfilled life here in captivity. So challenging it mentally and physically, as well as keeping it just happy in general.
I'm always recommending that you bring a pair of binoculars with you when you go hiking. So I want to give you a few tips on how to use them, because bird watching is a lot of fun, but it's more fun if you get a chance to see the birds up close through a pair of binoculars. But first, you've got to spot the bird. So when you're looking around in the trees, you want to sometimes stop and keep your eyes totally still and wait for movement. If your eyes are moving too much, you might miss the movement of the birds. Once you've spotted a bird, look for something unique nearby, like a tree branch or a hole in the bark. That'll help you find that same area when you lift your binoculars up. And when you do that, keep your eyes fixed on the bird and lift them up really quickly to help find that same spot just a little bit faster. Then pull out your phone or a field guide to identify what kind of bird that it is. And with those tips in mind, you should head outside and give it a try. God has made so many amazing kinds of birds. There are over 2,000 species that can be found across North America. And we as bird watchers tend to look for the rare birds, the ones that you don't see every day. But even the most common backyard birds are important to God. Sparrows are one of the most common groups of birds that you can find, and Luke talks about them and uses them as an example in Luke chapter 12, verses 6 and 7. He says, "Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? And not one of them is forgotten before God. Why, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, you are of more value than many sparrows." This passage is saying that in biblical times, sparrows were not worth a lot of money if they were sold. And Luke goes on to say that God loves you and cares for you, his sons and daughters, so much that he even knows the exact number of hairs that you have on your head. And if God cares enough to know little details like that, and cares about little birds like sparrows, how much more does he care for you and your life and your relationship to him? Never forget that you are precious and loved by God. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about some amazing backyard birds today, as well as bird watching and nature photography. You know, you can set up a bird feeder or a birdhouse in your backyard, and it might inspire you to do some more bird watching or even try some nature photography. There are so many ways that you can experience God's amazing natural world all around you. So now it's your turn to hike out into creation and seek our loving Creator. I'll see you next time.